company, you can't hire your own marketing professional, but they can hire marketing professional for 10 companies or for 50 companies. And as a young professional, you start there, and as soon as your company gets a bit large to a certain position, you have to leave your position to a new one, to a new project. By thus, they have per year, I guess, 1,500 new projects startups in Malaysia, and they increase the success rate for around 40% or 35%, which is huge for startups. Using this incubation criteria or incubation method, I have seen young students, let's not say young, like 30 or 28 years old professional who become real businessmen. And this changes the whole of like South Asia region, because Malaysia started by getting more developed education and better entrepreneurship system, and they changed the whole business community around them.
Finally, I'd like to ask you about your dream.
This is a lot, actually. I have like academic dreams and I have professional dreams. About the academic dreams, actually, we're doing research, but we are trying to do better research. We're trying to get to new horizons, to have our own, let's say, bigger platform, smarter platforms that we can integrate things on. But the biggest dream is to have a real good Egyptian market for entrepreneurs, for people who are starting small companies and they like to start and innovate. And I believe that we should together stand for these people and get this market to a better shape or a better future, because I can see that we have enough talents and enough abilities for people to do so. What we're only missing is that we need a better environment for this, and I'm dreaming to have this environment. As for myself, I've been working 5 years in this new startup, and I hope to see it one day as the leading company, as the leading IoT company Egyptian-wise, and actually in the Middle East.
I hope all your dreams come true, Dr. Amr Talat, Assistant Professor of Electronics. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thanks a lot, and I really appreciate to welcoming you here in our university. Thanks so much.
It's time for the Eye of Horus. Today we're coming to you from the area of Memphis. Actually, that name is a Greek name for the ancient Egyptian word Min Nefer, meaning the beautiful place or the beautiful construction. And this site was the location of the very first ever established ancient Egyptian capital. When Egypt was formed as a country, as a kingdom with the first dynasty, Memphis became the first capital, and the area of Saqqara became the royal necropolis of it. This area used to house palaces and administrative offices of the kings of what we call the Old Kingdom, which started from the 3rd up to the 6th dynasty, around almost 3,000 to 2,900 BC up to 2,400 BC, more or less. And right now this is an open-air museum known as the Memphis Museum. It houses a collection of monuments of what was left of the monuments of Memphis, and most of the monuments here date to what we call the New Kingdom. That's around almost 1,300 BC, more or less, the 18th and especially the 19th dynasty. Right now we'll start touring Memphis, so let's go. 80% of the monuments here belong to King Ramses II of the 19th dynasty, around almost 1290 BC, more or less. Actually, King Ramses II is considered one of the most important and famous kings of ancient Egypt. He's considered a warrior king, almost like Napoleon of the modern times. He led many campaigns, and during his rule, Egypt's border reached up to the Euphrates in the north, and actually he's famous for his buildings as well, like the famous colonnade at Karnak, as well as the beautiful also statues of his, and the facade of the Luxor temple, the Abu Simbel temples, and many other. Now right now here we have some of his statues, and we can look at them, but before we start looking at them, I'd like to mention that actually King Ramses II ruled for almost 64 years. He died at the age of 92, and he was one of Egypt's most important warrior kings. Now, for the kings of Egypt, they had certain regalia that distinguished them from the noblemen, including the crown. So we can see the crown here. Actually, the ancient Egyptians and the kings at that time actually had a variety of crowns. They had crowns representing them as rulers of Egypt, and that's the crown of the north and the south. And then they also had crowns like this one, which is the crown of war. It's called the Kheperesh crown. Usually, if it's colored, it would have taken in daily life the blue color. This is a granite statue of the king. Granite is brought from the area of Aswan, and that's further to the south of here. Now if we look at the statue here, the king is not wearing the classic kilt or the skirt which we're used to seeing the pharaohs in, but he's wearing a dress. We can see here is the sleeves, we can see the starch skirt of it, and at that time their outfits were made out of linen. We can see him here acting as a priest because he's carrying two staffs, one representing the head of the god Ammon, and the other is for the son of the god Ammon, the god Khonsu, the god of the moon. Now in ancient Egypt, kings represented the children of the god on earth, and during their lifetime they acted as the priests for the gods. So here actually the king is acting as a priest for the god Ammon and the god Khonsu. This is another statue of Ramses II, but here he's wearing a different outfit and a different headdress. If we look here, actually he's wearing a straight wig. In ancient time they had a variety of headdresses. All of them, even the hair wigs, were made out of dyed and stylized linen. So this is a straight hair wig, but they also had curly hair wig, pleated hair wigs, and a variety of them. And in addition to that, they had a traditional headdress, which we'll see soon, which is the Nemes headdress, the royal headdress. Always on the forehead you'll find also the Kubra, and the Kubra was one of the protectress goddesses of and she was dedicated to the north. We had two protectress goddesses called the two ladies, the Kubra for the north and the vulture for the south. So here the king is wearing the Kubra of the north to protect him. Then we have the bare chest, and unfortunately the rest of the statue is missing, but we can see traces of the kilt. So he would have been wearing a type of a skirt called kilt, and in ancient Egypt they called it shendit, which is partly pleated and then with a belt having a central tab. The ancient Egyptians had a multitude of gods. The main god was the sun god. At the beginning, it was Ra in the Old Kingdom, but then another form of the sun god, which was Amun-Ra, was introduced, and that was a merger of the god Amun of Luxor and the god Ra, who is the sun god, and that was the god of the country during the 19th dynasty and the New Kingdom, which we'll be looking at artifacts dating to it here. Now, but every local area also had its own gods. The area of Memphis, the main god of it was called Ptah. He's the god of darkness, he's the god of craftsmanship. But the gods did not exist on their own. They had families, which we call triads. Even the god Amun had his own triad. But since we're here at Memphis, so we'll be concerned with the triad of the god Ptah. The triad of the god Ptah is the goddess Sekhmet. Actually, this is the statue of the triad. So the goddess Sekhmet is the one to the extreme, or to my extreme right hand side. And actually she is a lady with a lioness